Oh? Oh no? Am I just being dumb? Am I just doing it dumb? No. Oh, criminy. No. Why is the chat not working? Oh, criminy. No, beans. Well, that's unfortunate. No biscuits. Oh, gravy. Oh, geez. No? Why does this not work? Give me. What? What the hecky? Oh, because I'm... Is it a... Stream elements help! Stream elements help! Let's see if this is an issue on my end. Do I have to... What the fricky? What the hecky? What the gish darn dang? What the frick? Gosh darn it. Oh. Oh. Huh? Huh? That did not work. Beans. Well, I do have one other secret strategy. Okay, my secret strategy is to make a Q&A that is just panic, panic, panic! Ah, panic, panic! There's no chat, panic! And like that's my strategy. That's all I have. I don't know if I have any other strategy. You let me know if you can think of anything. Okay. I might be a little silly. Please ignore the fact I did not set up my model because I was focused on setting up something else. Yeah, if y'all could just panic a little bit for me, like that would really like calm my nerves if I understood that like y'all had the same anxieties and self-doubt and displeasure at the current circumstances that I do. It would just really help out if you could just like, I don't know, just a little bit of screaming. Like maybe not as if your life depended on it, because ultimately it doesn't, but you know, just like so I don't feel left out, so I don't feel like I'm the only one. See, there we go. There, you know, even then, even still, I can like, yeah, we can scream in the background. Listen, this is audio only now. It's an audio only chat, and like, it's the screams of the damned. Oh, the maw, the maw is immune to the flames. because it's in front of all of it. So yeah, my chat is being silly. I don't know what the deal with that is. So what I'm gonna do, hi, I'm Arrow. If you don't know, I am a TTRPG VTuber. I talk about TTRPGs. I'm making a TTRPG. It's gonna drop tomorrow, and I figured today we could make a species for it, because it is a game where you create creature species. And it is a system where it is a la Spore. You create a species, and from that species you play as a creature. And if that creature dies, you just make a new one. And it is all set in a Stone Age level of tech. Although there's a lot of biopunk elements. So there's a lot of using your environment for your advantage, which I maintain the Neolithic was biopunk. No silly manga discussion? No, so that's going to be kicked next week. I'm so tired, bros. I'm so tired. I have been going to bed like after 2 every day, and I've been waking up at like before 9 every day, which, yes, that isn't that bad. That's like 7 hours, but that's also like under 7 hours for like the past week. So I've just been like slowly getting more progressively tired over the week, and I've been very busy doing other stuff. So, Xeneolithic still not done. It's dropping in 24 hours, I want to say. It's not even done. And we have a stream today. So have I considered more sleep? Yes. I was busy. So first off, if you don't know, we have a Q&A section here on YouTube where you can ask questions, you can shoot me thoughts, you can ask me about Xeneolithic, you can ask me about my TTRPG experience, you can ask me about VTubing, you can ask me about my thoughts on what's going on in the world right now. Anything's fair game so long as it doesn't breach TOS. Also, or the community guidelines. Also, say hi if you are a lurker, if you are a chatter, if you are watching the VOD. I like to give you the respect that you are giving me because you give me your attention. So I want to give you my attention. I want to say hello to you. I want to acknowledge you. I want to say thank you for coming by. And yeah, the current plan is we are going to play Xeneolithic effectively. We are going to go through, we're going to stress test the creation process. Then we're going to make a species and a creature. And y'all are going to get up to whatever nonsense it is that you want to get up to. Y'all are going to be as silly and stupid and wacky and wild as you want. And from there, the game is going to suck and it's going to break. And then I'm going to fix it before I ship it out for playtesting tomorrow. Smiles. Watching Gundam Seed all night. Oh my gosh. Okay, so hey, B and Kali and Monty and DP and N and Mizzle and Grot and Licorice and Yes No and Bees and Real Robot and Caffeine and everyone else who's watching the VOD, everyone else who's lurking. What? Why are we ASMRing? Arrow ASMR of the Damned? Oh, the screams. I just started watching. The first thing I see in chat is Arrow ASMR. Listen, I have yet to do ASMR. I mean, okay, depends on what you define ASMR as. I tag the Hunter's Archive as ASMR because the very first one I did was basically just like ASMR. It was me just reading the domain names in like a low, calm voice. Obviously it's evolved since then, but I kind of I just kept the tag because I'm like, well, that's the closest to ASMR I'm doing. It's like it's strictly speaking, it is a method of talking about a TTRPG that's basically like POV roleplay. POV roleplay, you're an Under Heaven member on your way off to go kill a Virtue, getting your last status report that you'll ever get in your entire life. Like, it's basically that, just with a TTRPG flair, so like, I guess, right? Immediately sidetracked, you're so cooked. Arrow, you're so cooked. No! Just because I got side... I'm sorry, Callie. I'm sorry for you. You're probably fine. What did bees do? Hi, I'm very tired. Yes, I'm tired too. I wish you a very merry beta launch. I wish for a very merry alpha launch as well. Nice argument, but I've already picked myself as the Chad. Completed TTRPG and you as a beta test. Okay. my buddy Rory has been hounding me for like months now. Like once every other week, once every 3 weeks, he'll just be like, hey, how's that Stone Age TTRPG going? And every week I'm like, yeah, good progress has been made. And he's just like, yeah, so when can I play it? And I'm like, ask me another question. But speaking of Rory, some of you may know this. Some of you may be aware that yesterday I tried out the system Biophage. The dev, Fern, was kind enough to run for me, and he was like, hey, I can run for you and one other person. It would just be like me running for 2 people, so you need a friend. And I was like, sure. Rory, you interested? And then we set it up, and we played yesterday, and it was the funniest session I've had in like actual years. I played Biophage yesterday, and it was the funniest session that I've ever seen, that I've ever participated in, at least over the past few years. So what I thought, I'm going to post it to Patreon behind a paywall. I'm thinking when I do long form VOD stuff, I'm going to put it on Patreon as a paid exclusive. I need to be better about making paid content on Patreon because no one subscribes to Patreon just to subscribe. Like a few people do, but generally people want like exclusive stuff for Patreon. So I'm going to shift that over to Patreon. Maybe I'll make it free on Patreon later, but the full VOD is going to be on Patreon. But I plan on clipping it. We had a 2.5 or 2 hour-ish session. That was like after character creation, after hopping in and chatting. How would you feel? Okay, so we're definitely getting a video or 5 on that. So we're getting at the very least a clip from the game that I played on it. We're getting at least 1 clip of that sometime in the near future. Although I'm curious, would you be interested? Because I'm tired. I have Xeneolithic to work on. I have other classes' homework to grade. How would you feel if I rolled in the TV and you got to watch the first 10-ish minutes of the actual literal Biophage session that I played with Fern and Rory, and it's just uncut? It is just the first like 10, 15 minutes, and then we hop in Xeneolithic after you get to see what I'm like as a player for like 15 minutes. Because I think that's a nice way to like tease what would be on Patreon. Because like, I don't know about you. When I say like, oh man, I can like roll in the TV, I mean literally like, and we are now live. I mean literally rolling in the TV.
Audience. Yeah, I would now utter minor, mediocre. And
okay, so that would distract me from Xeneolithic. So you're right. Maybe I shouldn't be distracted. Maybe this is the day I lock in. Maybe this is the day where I just like, it's Xeneolithic all day, every day. We don't have any TV. We don't have any TTRPG nonsense with Biophage. We're just on the ball. Xeneolithic. I'm just going to sit here, silence, can't show you what it is. Sorry, proprietary information. You don't get to see it. Lock in, Arrow. We can watch VOD later. Me when I lie? What do you mean when you lie? Ah! How dare you? Oh, I should probably... Let me... This is the best you get. I'm sorry. Like the chat is not working. You get a temporary replacement chat. It's making it really squished. This looks awful. You can't even read this. What? Okay, what if I do and then I go and then I go near. If I reverse you, I just put the reverse chat, and then I do this, and then you think that I have a chat above me, but I actually don't because I'm evil. This is what happens when chat breaks. This is what you did to us, N. You stole the chat, much like fire from the gods. You shall not be forgiven, and your liver shall be forever eaten by an eagle. This is just your names. It's not even your messages. It's only your names. Who would watch this? Okay, at least this is like, if I do this. So what if I go like really squished? Right? So now like technically the entire message is visible. It's just completely illegible. And upside down? I can do it upside down. Okay. Wait. No. That fixed it. What? Did it? I'm not gonna... I can't read it. I can't tell. What? I genuinely... What the frick? Okay, you want to know what? This is what we're doing. Doing this. Doing this. I'm going to apply a filter to it. I'm going to make that filter... please hold. 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 Okay. Now it's like you're ghosts. You're in the background. And I think that what I also need to do is I need to flip you horizontally as well. Yeah. So now you're like really upside down. Or no, I think this is fine. Yeah, so now like if anyone looks closely, they'll be like, what am I looking at? Huh? Are there chatters there? And then I say, nah. I had an empty stream, 0 viewers, no one chatting. It was really sad. Like, honestly, no one cares about Xeneolithic. I'm probably just gonna toss it anyway. We're Australian ghosts? I guess. Like, let me ask Made Mint if ghosts speak in Aussie. Crikey, the chat's upside down. Exactly. What was I doing? Oh, right, Xeneolithic. I did get distracted. Whoops. Maybe I need the TV. Maybe I need the TV. Maybe you don't need the TV. Maybe I need the TV to just demonstrate like the sheer inability of myself to actually engage in any degree of like understanding discourse. Because if I have the TV out, I can watch it and then I can make content off of reacting to myself. And then I get more content from my reaction. So I get like double dipping. Why doesn't everyone do this? Why doesn't everyone just react to their own content? That's an infinite money glitch. It's infinite content. You clearly need the stimulation, but good lord. When Eros asked to speak in Chicago, but it's 4D chess and we all speak... No! Speaking in the Chicago accent is not the same as Chicago-style MLA citations. But then there's no Xeneolithic. Is anyone really here for Xeneolithic? Are you here for Xeneolithic? Or are you here so that I can have you as ghosts chatting upside down? That's the real question. Do you even want Xeneolithic? I don't think you want it in the same way like it needs you. Where's my window capture? Hello? Hello, friend? Did I uncapture you? I did uncapture you. I'm sorry. Friend. I like making noises. Do I have... No, I need to open this. I need to open this. And let's make a species. You're here for arrow yaps? I get that a lot. A lot of people seem to just be here for arrow yaps, which, like, I suppose I should be honored by. Okay, so I'm going to skip the quick start. I'm going to grab... Oh, frick. Oh, heck. Oh, darn it. I'm gonna grab the entire section. Oh, criminy. I'm gonna go up to experience because you don't need experience. You're inexperienced. You are like little baby. You are like little baby in a big wide world where little babies are not to be understood. You need Xeneolithic? I don't know, but everyone I've talked to has been like, that sounds actually really interesting, but I'm just not confident. I think based on market research, we're gonna have to can the project after it's at 95% completion. Is that supposed to be acquiesce, that you couldn't be mad at me? That is not how you spell acquiesce, my friend. Toadpond did that on stream, actually. They had a stream of the stream, so it would loop every hour. Wow. Interesting. I can be here for two things. That's fair. I can be here for both. That's fair. Okay, so I don't have a character sheet. So, I don't know what we're doing here. Let's just run through it. Let me explain how to make it. Or do you want me to explain step by step? Alternatively, instead of making one communal species, you could each individually make your own species. Each of you could make your own species. And then we could have them have a death battle. Text file time. It's not promising infinite exponential growth. I understand why the investors kill it. Exactly. But like, the investors needed a return on their investment, and they only got $1 more billion. That could be cool. Okay, how do we do that though is my question. Okay, I'm just gonna, how about this? I'm gonna run through the making your species, and you on a Word doc can just follow along. You on your text file can just follow along. You on your notes app can just follow along. And if you get behind, you will be shot in order to leave your body to the wolves and buy the rest of the chat a little bit more time to escape. Fair warning. You like to do one together? Okay, so we'll do one together, and I'll just like write it. I'll just write it down in MS Paint, right? Okay, so Saga 1, making your species. To begin, your species is a featureless blob. It has a brain and a series of ether organs within it. It has a Galbrox, which converts ether into energy, which ambiently caught by a rift or taken forcibly from a corpse. It allows you to not need to consume food or photosynthesize. The Gillipop uses ether to respirate, removes the need for respiration. The Bamalam uses ether to telepathically project emotions and intentions to nearby creatures, removes the need for communication. An Aurawalla regulates the body using ether, removes the need for temperature regulation. The Zildrum allows for the use of allows for more of the species to spontaneously come into existence through the rift, removes the need for reproduction. The Idear uses ether to perceive, removes the need to see, hear, smell, or even taste. Except that's not quite right. Ether is unstable, all the more so the further from the rift your evolutionary line becomes. Roll 1d6 and lose access to that ether organ. So I'm going to. Do you want me to do a random number generator or roll the die that I have in my hand? I will have to go do exams in 30 minutes, so I offer myself to be sacrificed to the wolves. Shouldn't have had exams. Hey, forgot. So in love with these almost made up names. These are made up names. I just completely like spitballed. Like most of the names in this game. So the names in the game follow one of three like evolutionary lines. The three ways that I made names is literally just stacking symbols together. For instance, Aura Wallop just sounded fun. Take a real world word and substitute letters out of it. So, for instance, I can't think of a good example of that. There was a couple we did on stream, like like the Detroit, the Detroit. It was just me being silly about Detroit, Michigan, and then we had when I'm purposely obtuse. Like the Pogasquark was purposely me being like obtuse. The Lenogam, the Alpip, the Kling are me purposely being obtuse and adding like 2 Q's next to each other. 4 apostrophes in a word. Like that's the kind of stuff. And then I suppose there's also a fourth option, which is a reference. Right? I didn't usually name species or animals as references, but I oftentimes in their history, I referenced like a Mala in reference to Vampire the Masquerade. I referenced a Moot in reference to Werewolf the Apocalypse. Like those are the sort of things that are references, but those aren't species names, so they don't really follow the same schema. Me when I Detroit my Michigan. What, so you stole Michigan? Die in hand, roll, either works. Roll the physical die, roll the die. Okay, I'm gonna set down my mic. Four. That means we do not have an aura wall up. Regulates the body using ether, removes the need for temperature regulation. We do not have any internal temperature regulation right now. I want you to panic. I want you to panic because you're cold. I want you to panic because you're hot. I want you to panic because it is like 40 degrees centigrade outside, and you are literally going to die as a result of it. It is on fire out here. There is no safety. There is no cool. There is no shade. There is simply your inability to thermoregulate, and there is nothing else because you are a blob with a brain and no aura wallop. So now let's fix that. Ether organ is lost. It isn't necessarily removed from your species. It might have adapted into a different similar trait, or maybe it remains as an ineffective vestige of your lineage. Either way, you lose an essential function of living and will need to compensate with traits. And that's sure to be the first of many ether organs lost. So, now what we do, we roll 2d12. Where's my dice? Where did I put my dice? Okay, my D&D senses. How good of a TTRPG nerd am I? How can I recognize a D12? Is this a D12? This is a D10. Is this a D12? This is a D8. Is this a D12? This is a D10. This is a D12. Apparently, I'm not very good at being a TTRPG nerd. Because I dropped one of my dice. I'm sorry. Apparently, I have to process of elimination. Thank you for the the pentagons. So, we have to roll 2d12 and consult the list of ancestor species at the end of the section. One of the species is a species you must include, and the other is a blocked ancestor, a species completely divorced from your ancestor pool that you can never choose. Rolling 1d12. That's a 6. And that's a 1. So, what that means, we did not roll doubles, so we don't get to choose. And we go, so this is something where before tomorrow, I want to add in a little like chart that just says all of their names and basic information. Oh, criminy, I didn't add the... Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I said, give me a minute. Stop it. Stop arguing. Stop getting all up in my grill, bro. Chill. Chill, dog. Okay. So, we have... One, the Grogan. The Grogan, let's look at over what they give us. They have antlers, fur, which is good for thermoregulation, which you don't have, feet, teeth, lungs, nails, milk production. They live in the hills and Arctic. Their instinct is to fight. And then they value age over competence, and they have hospitality with other species. So that's number 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The Vortboff. They have mycelium, claws, whiskers, feathers. Feathers can be good for heat production or for temperature regulation. A proboscis, insect legs, eye spots. They also live in the hills or the desert. Their instinct is flight. What connects all of your species to one another, no matter the distance? And how do you feel about the collective? which is a group of Vortboff all connected together. So we have to choose, do we feel more Vortboff or more Grogan? One of these we have to have in our ancestor pool. One of them we are not allowed to have in our ancestor pool. Arrow's compiling. Yeah. Hey Arrow, will this VOD be uploaded to the channel? Yes. On YouTube, there is an automatic section of my channel called the Live tab, which has all of my past YouTube live streams just automatically uploaded. I think I also do have a playlist of YouTube live streams. It's on Twitch that I have to upload them to the VOD channel. Vortboff sounds cute. Be Vortmaxing. I agree with Vortmaxing. Okay, so write this down. We have no Aura Wallop. We cannot. Our blocked ancestor is a Grogan. And now the Vortboff is one of our ancestors. So now what we do... Do you see why I want to add in a little like small chart that doesn't have all this information? So I don't have to scroll all the way back and forth. So now we choose 3 other species to add to our ancestors, or we roll 3d12 to determine randomly, if you want fate to run its course. Do we want to roll, or do you want me to run through and give a brief explanation of every single of the 12? That is your decision. That is on you. I'm good with whatever. Obviously, explaining all of them would take more time, but it wouldn't be like something that would take probably more than 15 minutes. Brief description. Are these all the generally vital organs, or are they the non-essential ones? Okay, so the Aura Wallop is one of the ether organs. These ether organs, you have 6 to start out. You always automatically lose 1 to kind of guide where your species needs to evolve to start off. And over time, you will lose more of these species, or more of these ether organs, right? Until eventually, the game ends, or shoots to end, when every species loses all of its ether organs. Because at that point, the rift is so small, ether is no longer really present in the world. The traits that the Grogan had, or that the Vortboff have, so if I go all the way down to the Vortboff, mycelium. That's not really necessary for survival. What does that mean? What can you do with that? Claws. Claws, like, nothing mentioned protection or protecting yourself. Whiskers. Whiskers are like sensory, I guess. Feathers could be like heat or like heat regulation. A proboscis. Is that for consumption? Is that a nose? Is that for respiration? Insect legs. Locomotion. Eye spots. Like, eye spots are just like colorations on you. They're not actually giving it. So the traits are a big mix of, here are things to substitute ether organs. Here are things that you might just grab because you're cool. For instance, someone said, where are the wings? I'm going to run up. I'm going to start at Westbim. Wings. Tentacles. Vines. Snout. Scent glands. Hardshell eggs. Night vision. So if you pick the Westwim as one of your 4 ancestors, you could get wings. You could also get hardshell eggs. So for instance, if you later lose reproduction, you might then lay hardshell eggs as a descendant of the Westwim and kind of preemptively get ahead of that curve, right? That's the sort of thing you can do. So we can't be Grogan, but everyone in chat, keep a Vortboff for arrow kisser squiggles. Yes. Everyone keep a running tally of which ones interest you. I'm going to run through them. I'm going to give each of them like 30 seconds. Thysatrix. They have leaves, like as a creature, they grow leaves off of them. That might allow them to respirate. That might allow them to photosynthesize. That might allow them to thermoregulate maybe. Plant, animal, and mineral all are one in the same in this setting. They have crests, like display crests. Opposable fingers, always good. Leaping legs, I think like a frog leg. A rotating neck, like an owl. Chrysalis formation. What are you going to do with chrysalis? And echolocation. They're native to the forests and the desert. Their instinct is to fawn. Can I make a species that's a blind walking ball that has a singular multi-purpose orifice? Yeah. Why not? And then what is a major cultural divide in your species? And which of the Thisistrix did you descend from? So we can get back to that later if that interests you. The Westwim. So they have wings, tentacles, vines, snout, scent glands, hardshell eggs, night vision. They're from the mountains and the Badlands. Their instinct is to fight. They value territory very highly. And they have something called moots that influence their social order. The Strovodellum have fins, antennae, moss, a muzzle, compound eyes, bioluminescence, regeneration. So regeneration, maybe you don't lay eggs. Maybe all of you reproduce asexually. Maybe your species reproduces by tearing off an arm and the arm grows back in full body as you grow back another arm. That's one way of reproduction in this game. Swamps, they're in the subterranean. Their instinct is to fawn. What are the social castes that divide your species? And is flare or fin, which are two things that are very important to the social caste of the Strovodellum, which one is more important to your species? The Cling, they have bark, they have a stomach, they have a tongue, a heart, spines, eye stalks, spinnerets, so they can spin webs. They live in the forests and the Arctic. Their instinct is to freeze. What is the past that your species refuses to forget? And does your species want to recreate the Cling Empire? Do they want to bring back this time when the Cling ostensibly ruled over the entire known world? You already have the Vorpov. The Jirikiri, they have a nose, flowers, hooves, scales, mandibles, tail, photoreceptors, so they can like see light and dark, even if they can't see. They live in the mountains in the coastal region. Their instinct is flight. What are the social roles in your species, and why do they have tension? Did the apex or the assert, two of the social roles in the Jirikiri, have more influence on your species? The Lomp, which already people were asking about, they have arms. They have gills, a shell, stinger, seeded fruit, replaceable fangs, mucus secretion, which again, seeded fruit. One more way of reproduction. You don't have to just like be making babies. It doesn't have to be a live birth. It could be you lay eggs. It could be that you plant seeds. It could be that you regenerate. In the same way, you might breathe via gills. You might breathe via leaves. You might breathe via a snout. You might eat via having a stomach. You might eat via having teeth. You might eat by a cropping gizzard even, like all of these various things you can have. They're from the swamps in the volcanic region. Their instinct is to freeze. How does your species use what does your species use to differentiate factions within it? And how does the Thomp, a rule that all Lomp follow, apply to your species? The Klakalk, they have a beak, pincers, pouches, chitin, venom, a swim bladder, softshell eggs. They have caverns in the coastal region. They fawn. How does your species treat others differently than it treats its own kind? And is your species on the inner or the outer of the Klakalk social circle? How close are they to their ancestor? The Alpip. Traits, they have bones, ears, poisonous, talons, liver, roots, camouflage. They live in the caverns of the volcanic region. They also freeze. And why is your species scattered without a centralized community? Does your species align with the Mala or the Artaki, which are two social castes, like roles, effectively, that the Alpip had at their prime? You have the Lenogam. They have pheromones, paws, quills, a carapace, blubber, a trunk. They have live birth. Their regions are the plains and the Badlands. Their instinct is to fight. What is the reputation your species has, and why does it misrepresent you? Does your species follow the path of the true or the fallen Lenogam? Because the Lenogam are divided based on their region. They have completely different cultures in the plains and in the Badlands. And that leads us to the Vash'Zal. They have horns, they have thorns, they have sweating and adrenaline, they have spore slits, they have a dislocating jaw, they have respiratory skin. They live in the plains and the subterranean. They have a flight instinct. But what belief does your species have that no one understands? How do the three cracks of ego, the religion of the Vash'Zal, influence your species' behavior? And so of these 12, which 3, outside of the Vorpov and the Grogan, interest you? Vorp plus Lomp plus Feathers are also seed pods. That's fair. Character creation, we're picking 3 ancestors who we can get traits from. Yes, we're making in the species that in the TTRPG that is going to drop like tomorrow, ideally, like tomorrow's video might be super low effort because I might spend the rest of today because I'm finally free. I'm finally free to just focus on Xeneolithic. Later B. Strova. So Strova Clam. Do you mean Strova Delum? The Lomp and the Thysatrix. They seem like the most broadly useful. So that's something to consider. Do you want ones that are useful, or do you want ones that are cool? Do you want the Thysatrix because I really want opposable fingers, or do you want the Westwim because I really want wings? Do you want the Strovadelum because bioluminescence sounds really pog? Or do you want the Cling because a stomach just sounds really useful? So is your character build, the species, and the actual skills of the individual creatures de-emphasized for the purpose of playing lineage? Yes. So the way this game works, and we're going to jump into this soon, species creation is more important and takes longer than character creation, creature creation. Species creation is where you spend all of your XP. Your experience evolves your species over time. Your creature, your individual creature, gets stories over time. Your stories give you a positive and a negative. So over a few times of gaining new stories, your creature will be mechanically distinct from others of its species. You will play a different version of whatever species you build, but ultimately, the main drive is building your species, again, a la Spore. Like, I didn't go into this being like, I'm going to make Spore in a TTRPG, but like once I started making it, I was like, oh yeah, this reminds me so much of the Spore creature stage into tribal stage. So reminder. If you don't have a stomach, what are some other ways you can eat? Maybe you have leaves. Maybe you photosynthesize. Maybe you... What are some other ways to do this? Maybe you have a muzzle. Maybe your muzzle allows you to consume because you open your mouth and you chomp down and stuff. The Cling obviously have their stomach. But what if the Vortboth with their proboscis? What if your proboscis is one of those like insect mouths that allows you to like slurp up liquids? We eat by mushroom. Yeah, maybe the mycelium that you produce is like a fruiting body that you eat yourself. What if you're a infinite food glitch? You produce food by mycelium, and then the myceliae allows you to eat it, which gives you more energy to make more myceliae. So it looks like we have Thysatrix, Westwim, and Lomp, Strovadelum, Lomp, and Thysatrix. So it looks like we pretty solidly have Lomp and Thysatrix. Photosynthesis sounds like it could be meta. How do you think you'll balance that? I don't really care. Like, with all due respect, if you want species that can photosynthesize, I don't think I should stop you from photosynthesizing. And also, if you're underground, how are you going to photosynthesize? Right? If you're in the caverns, if you're in the subterranean, if you're in a cloudy day, how are you going to photosynthesize? Right? So I think that, and then that's something where if I am going around and I'm like eating creatures, if I'm eating flesh, I can do that anywhere. If I'm photosynthesizing, I have to be exposed to the surface, which is an interesting angle of it. So that is kind of natural balance. It's also like, why wouldn't I make it so that there's differences between carnivores and herbivores? Because it's just like, well, that's not what the game's about. Like the game is about empowering you to make the thing that you think is cool. And if you think a photosynthesizing like weapon of war would be awesome, go for it. I don't think that I need to like kneecap you for wanting to choose photosynthesis. Flying plant, yeah, make a flying plant build. Make a species where all of you have wings and you have like feathers and flowers and leaves and roots and vines, and you're a giant flying plant creature. We can kind of just involve an intestine with no stomach using myceliae. Maybe. Flying plant. I mean, you could do a flying plant build. The Vortboth give you myceliae and feathers. You could swap off of the Thysatrix and Lomp build. So, are we doing Westwim Or are we doing Strovadelum? I've seen the Strovadelum give you fins for swimming, antennae, moss, a muzzle, compound eyes, bioluminescence, and regeneration. Meanwhile, the Westwim give you wings, tentacles, vines, a snout, scent glands, hardshell eggs, and night vision. Just one thing I don't ever get about this game, roughly, how big are the creatures? How big do you want them? Like, that's something where I could say, well, your average creature tends to run about between 1 and 2 meters in height. However, there is a degree of variance depending on what traits you choose. No, I think it's if you want to play a creature that's like 3 meters tall and you're playing alongside another species which is all like 20 centimeters tall, I think that's fine. I think that you would have to account for that in the game that you run. I think that the GM would have to be like, okay, I'm going to have to balance this around the fact that one person is like literally 30 times the height of the other one. But like, I don't care personally. But like as the dev, as the designer, I am of the opinion it is as large or as small or as wide or as narrow as you want it to be. And I think it would be equally interesting to play a creature that is 5 meters tall as one that is 5 centimeters tall. I think those would both present incredibly unique challenges for your species. And particularly if you're running with one species that is 5 centimeters tall, one that is 5 meters tall, and another species which is like 2 meters tall. Because suddenly, anytime you want to go underground or in a cave or find shelter, the 5 meter tall one is screwed. Anytime you have anything to do with strength or resisting foes, the 5 centimeter one is screwed. Hey, Sergeant. Question, when it says wings, does it mean flight organ or specifically wings? It's up to the GM at the time. Because when I say wings, I mean like wings. I mean like bat wings. I mean like bird wings. But also a lot of these are super flexible. For instance, the Vortboth have arms. Or what? No, the Lomp have arms. Do the Lomp have human arms? Do the Lomp have octopus arms? Is the Stinger a scorpion stinger? Is the Stinger a bee stinger? Like a wasp stinger? Like, a lot of these are purposely up to interpretation. Replaceable fangs. I was going shark teeth. Is that what you perceive it to be? A lot of this is explicitly up for interpretation, and that's why I chose a lot of the wording I did. The issue is some stuff I just could not come up with more generic words, like insect legs. You know the legs that have like centipede legs? Or like frog legs? Like I said leaping legs because I didn't know how to write frog legs without saying frog legs, right? Insect legs without saying like centipede legs. So what I think would be interesting is a dandelion type species that's very aesthetically beautiful but terrifying conqueror. So flying by, yeah, I mean, if you want to be like a flying squirrel, absolutely. That's a really based answer. What was my answer? Letting small guys crawl into tight spaces and big guys tank hits that would smear the little guys is peak game mastering. I mean, that's the thing, is that this is a game where it's supposed to be whimsical, it's supposed to be weird, it's supposed to be wild. This is not a game where everyone needs to be balanced around the same combat system. This is explicitly a system where everyone should be able to be radically different than one another. Yet none of you feel safe or overpowered by virtue of the fact that your most advanced technology is the wheel, right? You do not feel safe going from one village to the next, even though you have a 5 meter behemoth partying with you. Because that 5 meter behemoth will die of exposure if it rains too long. Right? And that's the kind of like inbuilt balance that is a little bit like, I might want to make like a note of that somewhere for like, oh, if you have creature sizes, like they can be as big or small as they want, but like the bigger they are, the harder it will be for them to like acquire resources, and the more incongruent it'll be. Generally, most species are between 1 and 3 meters. Hey, Butterscorch. Spindly legs? I mean, maybe spindly, but like, I don't know if spindly gives off the proper impression. Or the poisonous thing that platypi have. So that'd be venomous spurs. digitigrade reverse joints. Oh wait, that's armored core. I think it's a like unigrade, right? I looked it up and it's like uterus legs or something, and I'm like, no one knows what that means. Like I literally like made it with I ran my character I ran my roommate through character creation like 6 months ago, and I had it like uterus legs and like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I had to look it up. I'm sorry. So we have Vortboff, we have Thisitrix, we have Lomp, and there was never a decision between Westwim and Strovdelm, but I think I saw more Westwim. So I'm going to go Westwim. Bigger means it needs more food and falling is more dangerous. I mean, Ignis, I didn't add anything for like, oh, if you're tiny, you need less food, and then if you're large. I just kept it simple because personally, in exploration systems, I think if you weigh, like your food consumption must be 1 pound of food for every 15 pounds that you have as a creature weight. And as you increase in weight, you increase in strength. However, you increase in the fall damage you receive. Like that's not what the system is about. This system is about, oh, I want to play a giant monster that has like spikes on its back and spore slits that allow me to send out pheromones and like control the brain of people. Okay, you can do that. BRB got to drive a forklift. I was about to say, like, humble brag. I guess I'm just worried about the possibility of someone just deciding to go trying to make a sentient hominid apex predator that's a jaguar that can switch between walking upright all fours. I mean, why wouldn't they be able to do that? Like, my challenge to you as, oh, I don't want them to do this thing is why? If it's fun for the player, and this is not a combat-oriented system, so you don't need to balance it around combat. It's an exploration-oriented system where, ultimately, like, rocks fall, you die isn't even like a jerk move in this game. Rocks fall, you die should happen probably at least once a game. Not due to like hatred or frustration or malice or power tripping of the GM, but literally just because, like, roll an obstacle, it's a rock slide. The creatures fail to get out of the way. They take a payment. They take damage. Oh no, they're only like 1 injury away from dying. And then they try to make a roll to get out of the way. They fail. They take another injury. They're dead. Like, that's just how this game works. You can build a bloody xenomorph, cool, you're still rolling the same. Yeah, exactly. Like you can play a xenomorph, you can play a predator, you can play a god like Godzilla. Like the point of the system is not to have it balanced around any like bounded accuracy. The point of the system is pretty explicitly go stupid, go crazy. So let's go back up. So we have your ancestor pools. Now, we go to each of our species, we go to each of our ancestors, and we grab 1 trait from them. And then, in addition to that, out of all of them, we grab 2 traits. Collectively. So we end up with 6 traits total. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go down. I am going to kill you. I am going to kill you. And then I'm going to kill you. Then now it should be everything past this point is kill. Okay, so we have, oh my gosh, my voice. Hello, some dude. Okay, I'm gonna just real quick, just for the sake of, I'm gonna interrupt the time stream. I'm so sorry if this is upsetting to you. Okay, so, oh, that's create our creature. Whoops. Don't worry about it. Did I do this wrong? I did this wrong. I'm sorry. I'm dumb. Please ignore me. Please forgive me for my sins against Xeneolithic, my own creation. Yet I am not above the falsehoods of reality. Okay, so. Goodness gracious. So, going through all 4 of these. Choose 1 from each of them, and then 2 collectively. So, Thisitrix is leaves, crests, opposable thumbs, leaping legs, rotating neck, chrysalis formation, echolocation. Westwim, wings, tentacles. No, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I'm like actually brain dead. Why don't I just do this? I can just be so smart about this. I don't have to be silly. I can be intelligent. And some might even say smart. Ignore the fact that like text is going up and down on the screen rapidly. Okay, so out of these, we have to choose one from each of them, and then two more collectively. So y'all don't have the ability to regulate your temperature. You are going to freeze if it drops below like 5 centigrade, maybe even 10. You are going to overheat if it's above like 40. 30? For all of my non-US friends, and also non-UK friends, but like mostly my non-US friends, what is a reasonable like centigrade temperature that is like, oh, with AC this is fine, but I would not want to be outside at this temperature? I'd say you're pretty smart, like 25% of the time. Thank you. That's like 25% more than I would say. Choose how many from each. So we each get one each. We get one trait. And then we get two collective. So it could be you grab 3 traits from here, or you could grab 2 traits from here and 2 traits from here, but you have to grab at least one from each. I propose we get feathers and wings so we have insulated flaps that we can open and close for thermoregulation. I just spent the last half hour looking for my wallet only to find it in my hoodie pocket. Yay! Google's conversion tool is free. Yeah, but I'm doing things. And I have you. You're also free. So, we have put forward feathers, wings. Does anyone else have any suggestions on traits that you might want? So we have leaves, wings, mycelium, and arms. A plant species with a symbiotic relationship with a non-sentient fungus that does the digestion. So right now we have leaves, wings, mycelium, feathers, arms, seeded fruit. How does that work? So that would allow you to thermoregulate. You have feathers, and you also have like wings. You have leaves and mycelium that allows you to have, and seeded fruit, which allows you to have that like plant, like non-animalistic trait. And then you have arms, which are just useful to have. Opposable fingers. What would y'all want to replace with opposable fingers? Would you want to drop arms for opposable fingers? Osteocolonoscopy popped in my head, and it sounds both horrendous and hilarious. Osteoporosis. Plant fungi flying abomination. All right, so we're gonna stick with this unless you have anything else. We have one pick left. Let's go for tool. So we currently have leaves, wings, mycelium, feathers, arms, and seeded fruit. You can replace one of these with anything else. I mean, you don't need feathers. However, how will you keep warm? So your wings will be thermoregulation. How will you fly through the air at high speeds, dive bombing your foes, much like the soaring raptor that descends upon the unfortunate tortoise? Should you not be able to withstand the chilling wind that you find at higher elevations? Sure. Just my mycelium fungus produces excess heat. So if you want to drop feathers, you can grab opposable fingers. We got leaves. We don't need to be raptors. Okay, well, boo. Mycelium is the answer to everything. Maybe. We're endothermic as long as we're packing protein. Okay, so leaves, opposable fingers, wings, mycelium, arms, and seeded fruit. Write that down. Write that down. Okay, so now what you need to do, you need to answer one cultural question from one species, one legacy question from another species. You need to grab the instinct of a third species and a region from a fourth species. So now here's where we go through and we read who are the Thysatrix. And you have to decide, do you want the region from a region from the Thysatrix, you want the instinct from the Thestrix? Do you want to answer the cultural question of the Thestrix? Or do you want the legacy question of the Thestrix? And then we do that for each of them. So you would choose the region of the Thestrix, and then the instinct of the Westwim, and then the cultural question of the Vortboff, and the legacy question of the Lomp. You don't choose 2 regions. You don't choose 2 instincts. So let's see. The Thestrix. What is the major cultural divide in your species? Why did it happen? And are the Foratrix or Desertrix your ancestors? How do you relate to them both? Who are the Thestrix? Thestrix are a species divided by geography, with each group named after the region they are most suited towards. While both Foratrix and Desertrix view one another with a tepid distrust, both culture groups recognize their shared heritage as Thestrix, and conflict between the two is uncommon. Because of this ancient yet amicable division, neither culture has a strong stigma towards Mews, or creatures that have mutated into having traits other than their normal species, instead viewing them as a nascent third culture group emerging in Thestrix society. The Foratrix live in loose social circles called banners, rarely exceeding the single digits. They shy from contact with other species that are said to be quite playful among their own. Each Foratrix maintains a series of chrysalises called a den, hanging from the canopy, which acts as their private residence. The Foratrix believe everything is owned by something else called its keeper. Every Foratrix is the keeper of their own den, though they might also be the keeper of the tree their den hangs from, and the ground beneath it. To be something's keeper is ultimately to be its caretaker, a responsibility the banner is expected to hold its members to. A keeper of a friend might allow that creature into their den, even if they're of another species, if that's what the keeper believes is best for that friend. The Desertrix live in large nomadic groups called caravans. Each caravan is distinct from one another, but Desertrix custom dictates that should 2 caravans meet, they merge together for a night and a day in a festival called a singing. Desertrix in a singing play games, competing crest displays, and join their chrysalises together in communal resting places. With how loud singings are and the fact that caravans don't move during them, a caravan might run into an act of singing, extending it an additional night and dubbing it a grand singing. It's expected for some Desertrix to swap caravans when a singing ends, leading to a shared feeling of community across all caravans. Do you hear that? That's the singing outside. So, with the Thestrix, you're going to choose either the region, forest or desert, the instinct, fawn. You're going to answer their cultural question, what is the major cultural divide in your species, why did it happen? Or are the Foratrix or Desertrix your ancestors? How do you relate to them both? Now, independent of this, you can also say, we took on the caravan trait of our Desertrix ancestors, even if you choose instinct fawn from Thestrix. This does not preclude you from having them influence you, it just means you have to answer one of each. Let's move on before we make any decisions. The Westwim. They're in the mountains, the Badlands. They have a fight instinct. Why does your species value territory so highly? How did your species adapt moots to their social order? Who are the Westwim? The Westwim are outside in a motorcycle, revving and roaring, chasing after that other one. They really want to start a grand singing. You'd be surprised. Westwim attack without warning, diving with strafing strikes meant to frighten targets into fleeing. They prefer pack scavenging over hunting, but even the smallest Westwim will fight to the death to defend what they have claimed as their territory. This territory is called a Westwim's grounds, where the only creatures allowed are their nestmates, including parents, children, mates, and siblings. Grounds are often composed of multiple nests of related Westwim, though adolescent Westwim regularly seek independent grounds to claim for themselves. These solitary Westwim often allow non-Westwim within their grounds in exchange for bribes or even company. The social order of the Westwim is determined by ground size, with the height of a Westwim's nest determining their place within their grounds. The Westwim in the highest nest of the largest grounds is called the dire Westwim, who is the only one with the authority to call a moot. Moots are social gatherings meant for courtship, information sharing, and challenges. Such challenges can be races, fights, or grappling, though they avoid serious injury. Grudges are uncommon, as the shifting of grounds and nests are seen as a natural part of Westwim culture. Westwim society is a stigma against Westwim on Westwim violence, with formal challenges at moots being the only legitimate means of transferring grounds. However, the car outside is being very loud right now, so I have to deal with that in the meantime. I'm gonna drink some water and ignore it. My apologies. Westwomen have a stigma against Westwomen on Westwomen violence, with formal challenges at moots being the only legitimate means of transferring grounds. However, Westwomen that don't at least attempt to challenge their neighbors at a moot are called whelps, bullied out of their grounds without any stigma attached. Any whelp that successfully fights back and defends its grounds will likely lose the title by the next moot, having earned their grounds in a less formal but equally established facet of Westwomen society. I like the Westwomen culture question. Yeah, that could be good. So like, why do you value territory so highly, or how do moots affect your social order? I might change it to, how does the concept of whelps live on in your species? Right, so the idea of like certain ones that are like, it's valid to bully and attack them because they are others. That might be the new question. I'm uncertain on what the Westwomen question should be. I changed it like the other day, so I'm not sure. Vortboff. They're from the hills and the desert. They have a flight instinct. Papa Vortboff got that flight. Cultural question. What connects all of your species to one another, no matter the distance? How does a species feel about the collective? Why? But who are the Vortboff? The land is just one more limb to the Vortboff, one that connects all living things. Though they organize themselves into social groups called colonies led by an elected chancellor. Very few Vortboff view themselves as anything other than a member of the collective. Connected to all other Vortboff via their mycelium, the collective is a democratic meritocracy where a joint chorus of voices can advise any Vortboff on any issue. Colonies and their chancellors are just empty titles to more easily communicate with other species, the collective being something of an open secret among those who know the Vortboff well. Even individualism is seen as a tool to better relate to other species. Though far from a hive mind, there are Vortboff that earnestly express that they are simply a manifestation of the collective. These Vortboff express an uncanny understanding of their fellows, being able to coordinate without even a connection via the mycelia, yet a complete inability to interact with other species effectively. Hey, Alza. To others, the collective is a little more than the few loudest voices imposing their will on all others. They might have the answer to any question, but is that answer true? Does it simply further their influence? These dissenting Vortboff rarely leave their colonies, instead pushing their chancellor to act with more determination. Or they just pursue the position themselves, trying to strengthen their colony's autonomy through incremental change. But no colony can fully disconnect itself from the collective, so even the most radical chancellors abide by the collective at a surface level. So, what connects all of your species to one another no matter the distance? How does your species feel about the collective? Why? Does the culture of the Vortboff connect with you? Or are you just feeling, we want to be flight? We want a flight instinct. Finally, the Lomp. Mayhaps my magnum opus. Wait, y'all are so lucky. Y'all chose 4 species. One of which had a fight reaction, one of which had a flight reaction, one of which had a fawn reaction, one of which had a freeze reaction. You have access to all 4 of the instincts. Congrats. So the swamps are the volcanic region, they freeze. What does your species use to differentiate factions within it? And how does the Thomp apply to your species? How has that altered your culture? Who are the Lomp? To live as a Lomp is to live quietly and without fuss. Other species compare their most unbothered or lazy members to Lomps, a fact that does little more than to amuse them. Social orders of Lomps are called Glomps, with each Glomp composing of 2 or more Fromps. The Fromps are typically decided by what fruit the Lomps in it produce, though in Glomps where all Lomps produce only a single type of fruit, Fromps have been decided by shell shape, gill count, or even mucus color. Lomps are expected to support their Fromp in all matters, even ones they disagree with, though this is more of a social pressure than an enforceable rule. Each Glomp has its own territory it calls home, almost always defined by a central landmark around which the Fromps stake territory claims. When Glomps encounter one another, their Fromps will usually be different and therefore function the same as if they were all part of one large Glomp. In the rare cases that Fromps from different Glomps are similar enough to cause confusion, the Lomps will greet their newfound companions as they would a member of their own Fromp. They might even join together permanently, or part ways, depending on the goals of the 2 Glomps. All of this stems from the one rule every Glomp enforces: the Thomp. No Lomp shall slay another Lomp, no matter their Glomp or Fromp. Any Lomp to violate this Thomp would have their shell cracked and their fruiting bodies covered in mucus, a warning that they are not to be welcomed by any glomp. This includes direct and indirect means, such as refusing aid to a lomp in need, or injuring them in such a way that causes them to later succumb to exposure. As a result, lomps are very conflict-averse to one another, for fear of starting a cascade culminating in an accidental violation of the thomp. Like, unironically, I really love what I did with the lomp. People are always like, oh, it's like Dr. Seuss, it rhymes. Like, yeah, it's just a bunch of like lomp, glomp, fromp, thomp. Like, it's just fun. It's glorious. So, what does your species use to differentiate factions within it? How does the thomp apply to your species? How has that altered your culture? So, out of these 4, what are you feeling? You need 1 region. Each species has 2. You need 1 instinct. Each species has 1. You need 1 cultural question, which is kind of just like a running theme of each ancestor. And you have 1 legacy question, which is a specific detail of your ancestor that lives on with you. So we have a forest from the Thissatrix. We have volcanic from the Lomp. I mean, N, you say volcanic would be hard with photosynthesis. This is magic, baby. You could photosynthesize off of lava. Like, I don't care. And honestly, the lava would be a situation where you need to be cooling yourself rather than heating yourself. So not having any internal heating system would actually serve you well. Eat the lava? I mean, you could maybe eat the lava. So it sounds like overwhelmingly, y'all are taking the Lomp volcanic region. So that means no more regions. It is just instinct, cultural question, legacy question. I also heard a lot of instinct flight, which that would be the Vortbuff. A flight instinct. A lot of you said flight instinct. So that would mean with the Thissatrix, you have to choose what is the major cultural divide in your species, why did it happen, or are the Foratrix or Desertrix your ancestors? How do you relate to the both of them? Then the other question you have to ask, you could do fawn instead. You could do a fawn reaction and have that be Thissatrix. The other one you have is with the Westwim. Why does your species value territory so highly? How does the concept of whelps live on in your species? Like, multiple people said that they wanted flight. So that's what I'm operating off of. Yeah, I mean, yeah. However, like, the Westwim also fly and they fight. Look at the Westwim. The Westwim are so brave and aggressive and confrontational. Why can't you be more like them? The Westwim go around bullying each other and knocking each other out of their grounds. Why can't you be more like them? You like fawn more? We can do fawn. You like the Westwim cultural question? Why does your species value territory so highly? That could work. So flight or fight, no freeze, no fawn. So the current all or nothing. So you could grab the Westwim instinct for fight. Instinct flight means running away, not literally flying. Yeah. So instinct flight is when confronted with conflict, your MO is to leave. Much like how an elk, a gazelle, when it sees a predator, it runs away. When an elephant sees a predator, it squares up and bares its tusks and gets ready to fight to protect its young. So that's the difference between like a fight instinct, a flight instinct. A fawn instinct is more like on the human level, although that is a thing that like some species do, whereas they attempt to effectively get on the good side of the predator. They attempt to, whatever threat they perceive, they try to lower the threat of it by getting it to like them. Or you might freeze, you might hide, you might not be able to move. And some species, some people find great success by when confronted with adversity, they just lock up, they freeze, and it just passes by them. It just ignores them. It doesn't see them, whatever it might be. We can have multiple instincts, great. So you start off with one instinct. You can get more instincts over time later, correct? And so mechanically, your instinct when you roll and you roll a consequence, you roll payment that you have to make, you lose health or time or something, you can go feral by falling back on your instinct. If it is a situation where you have a fawn instinct and you're trying to talk to someone, you could fall back on your fawn instinct in order to reduce the consequences of failure. But then you're stuck fawning until you get out of it, right? I'm thinking fawn because we can just throw fruit to predators. That's a great fawn instinct, yeah. So that'd be Thissatrix, fawn. Then we have the Vortboff and the Westwim. People have mentioned the cultural question of the Westwim. The cultural question of the Westwim is, why does your species value territory so highly? Why would your species, which can fly, which can throw seeded fruit around, which can be a flying mycele dandelion creature, care about territory? And if you do that, that would mean that you have to choose for the Vortboff. How does your species feel about the collective? Why? Well, your species is not tied to the ground. You are a very air-aligned species. You are flying. You are not tied into the collective. Do you feel like you're escaping it? Do you feel like you're running from the collective? Do you feel like you wish you could have the collective in the air? You kind of miss having that? That's up to you. We're plant gaming. So no fight. I like fawn more than flight, because if we are going to be warriors, I like the idea that if you have enough pushback, you cave. They need open spaces to fly over and scatter. That's fair. Westwim culture question is good. We have territory to fly about. Okay. So that means that for the Vortboff, how does species feel about the collective? Why? Additional and valued territory provides fertile ground. So I think this is fertile ground for reproduction en masse via seeds, right? And maybe it's not that you want territory. Maybe it's you have a specific slice of land, which is really like, you effectively have one giant nest. It is a crop rotation field. That is where you grow your young. Literally, like you sow them with seed, and then they grow up, and then maybe you can't fly. Maybe your species can't fly for like the first 6 months, the first year. And so you have this kind of section of the land. Or you have multiple nests. Yeah, that could work. But maybe it's like you have this section where you currently live in the volcanic region. What if there's this crater that is surrounded by like lava flows and like ash piles and a mountain, and in this little crater here, like nothing is going to come attack it? And so this is the territory you really highly value. You don't really care about the lava flow. You don't care about the ash pile. You don't care about the mountain. You care about this one little area of fertile ground you can grow your young in. I think we like the collective. We share nutrients freely with anyone who needs it. That's not individualist. Like it, since species shares similar collectivist ideas. Fawn is making it so you're more valuable alive than you are as food. If you being alive means more food. Exactly. Like absolutely. And maybe there's something where you as a species work with a predator species or a species that is like, or previously worked with a predator species, that you were effectively like the anglerfish lure. You were the light because you were bringing fruit over, and like this foolish little gazelle would come over and eat your apple that you scattered across the ground, and then the wildebeest tiger cat would leap upon it and tear out its jugular because you lured it towards the wildebeest tiger cat. It's like how a predator that eats eggs isn't going to kill the mother. Yeah. Or we care about the lava and such as natural barriers. Yeah, that could be another thing. So name your species. what is the species name, and assign it some cultural aspects. And then here are just some examples to consider. None of these are required. These are just to get your brain going. What's a group of your species called? How do these groups interact with one another? So if you noticed, all of the different creatures that even each of the different species I put forward wasn't like a parliament of owls, right? It wasn't a pop of plow. It wasn't a duel of maw. It was a conclave, or it was a conclave of Alpip. Or for instance, the one of your ancestors, it was a banner of Foratrix or a caravan of Decitrix. It was a, like Westwim don't have a group name, but they do have a title that is a leader and has a hierarchy, and they have events that they go to. With the Moot and the Dire Westwim, they have grounds which describe their territory, not a group of them. The Vortboff have the collective, and they have a nominal title of Chancellor and Colony, but they don't really care about that. That's just kind of what they use to communicate with other species. So remember, a flourish of Danlik would be like if you're an animal, if you're like a murder of crows. That's not really what this is. Like, you could still have that, but this would be more like a flourish would be, we travel in flourishes. We live in flourishes. Maybe you call your territory a flourish because that is where all of your young flourish from. Think less animal, think more civilization, right? That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm suggesting. What does a species call its leaders? How formal is their authority? Do you have one leader that is an autocrat that leads everyone else? Is it a kind of direct democracy where every single adult member is given equal say? Is it based on age? Is it where you have like a seniority, the older you are? Is it that how many fruit you can produce and how bountiful you are determines how valued you are, because, or maybe it's how fast you are with your wings. Like, what is the leadership criteria? What are the leaders called? How formal are they? And how easy is it for someone to become a leader or supplant the previous leader? What do other species stereotype you as? Why is that wrong? Pretty self-explanatory. Why do other species think something about you that is just not true? Why do other what do species assume about you? Is it that you're helpless and that you're pathetic and that you're weak? And the reason they think that is because you're just collectivist, you're just helpful, you just give fruit freely, and so everyone thinks you're pathetic little babies, but actually, like, you're just kind? Where's my strength-based species hierarchy at? That's the Westwim, Alza. A flourish is a traveling group, a colony is a larger static group. I do like nursery grounds being called flourishes, though. I mean, my thought, I like the idea of a flourish being what you call your valued territory. You value your flourishes in the same way Westwim value their grounds. Your flourishes are where you grow new of your species. So you don't rely on the rift. You still have your ether organ that allows you to just spawn spontaneously. However, you don't need to rely on that. You could also sow seed and grow your own, which means if you then lose that ether organ later, you're already set. You're already fine. You already know how to do this. I like us being giving, but only to our own species or those that agree to be under us. So maybe other species stereotype you as being super cruel, capricious, selfish. And that's wrong because, well, no, you're just kind of guarded. You're just kind of like insular. What tool, good, or service is unique to your species? Why do other species want it? Did you come up with a special tool that is used to basically spread seeds in a very wide area over time? Like you have this like sifting sieve that you use, that all of you put in your seeds together, then you spray it over the entire flourish. Do you have a tool which is like an atlatl, but you can use it while you're flying, and it's like a air-to-air missile that you can use? Do you have a specific, like, is your fruit something that you sell to other species and it can't be found anywhere else because it's unique to your species? Do you have obsidian that you like harvest from the volcanic region and you give to other species? What do you have that other species want? stereotyped as pathetic when we're really like 80 kilograms of raw muscle that will actively crush a threat. I think the fruit surface is where it is. So this is about playing other ancestors. We're not going to worry about that. This is just basically giving advice of just like, hey, if you're using other species, whether because a player created them or in other books, for instance, if you in homebrew want to make your own ancestor species, there's a format right here. There's a format right here. You can just copy this and then write your own. And you would just choose 12 of all of the ancestor species to be your entire pool. So you can't, like, you'd still roll a d12. It's just, if I don't care about the Grogan, I would not include the Grogan. I would replace it with the Bippledap homebrew, right? So I would swap out one of the 12. That's just what that's saying. So now, we don't need these anymore. Womp womp. Now, factions and agenda. All species have factions within them, each of which has two agendas, ideological and diplomatic. Each agenda will impact how creatures of other factions and species interact with them. As a result, it may make some social tasks more or less difficult based on the temperament and biases of other creatures. Broadly, creatures from factions that have at least one agenda shared have a more positive initial impression of one another than creatures that have no overlap. Similarly, opposing agendas often lead to tension among strangers. These ideological lines may or may not transcend species. Making factions. When creating your species, make a single dominant faction with an ideological agenda and a diplomatic agenda. Write down a momentum with 3 maxims and give the faction a name. So, dominant factions are the primary cultural force leading a species. A species can only ever have one dominant force at a time, but it doesn't need one. Every species begins with one. This is the most popular, not quite all-encompassing, but the kind of baseline that most of your species is going to be. Right? And you choose one ideological agenda, and you choose one diplomatic agenda. Ideological agendas. You choose one of these 6. Cultural. The faction ties its value to cultural productions such as music and dance, as well as the advancement of entertainment via substances and ether use. Musicians, entertainers, and creatives are highly valued. Industrious. The faction focuses on advancing technology in all fields with an emphasis on increasing efficiency on daily life. Engineers, artisans, and academics are highly valued. Expansionist. The faction attempts to expand their territory and population as much as possible, establishing settlements and building infrastructure to ensure growth. Buildings, scouts, and pioneers are highly valued. Traditionalist. The faction prioritizes maintaining traditions, ancient knowledge, and cementing their legacy of their ancestors. Scholars, storytellers, and the elderly are highly valued. Mystical. The faction has a particular interest in ether and the rift, both in their metaphysical properties as well as their utilization for practical purposes. Shamans, prophets, and muse are highly valued. Or purists. The faction strives for their idea of purity in one form or another, from the body to the mind to the soul. Aristocrats, heroes, and those born right are highly valued. So which of the 6 of these best represents what is your faction known for doing? If the faction is allowed to advance without foreign interference or catastrophe, what do they aim to accomplish? This is the main dominant faction of your species. This is the main faction. And it's not how you interact with others. This is entirely what you do when left to your own devices. Wow, these are all wow. So you don't choose 2 of these. You choose one of these, and then you're going to choose a diplomatic one as a second agenda. So you would have like a traditionalist, isolationist. You would have a mystical merchant, right? That's what it would be. And then you're going to make a second faction that is after this. So you might start off with traditionalist isolationists, and you'll make a second faction that might be purist isolationists, right? We think an expansionist? That's why you value territory so much. You want more and more and more. The Danlick National Fruit Company. No! What if our hierarchies aren't based on might and violence, but rather on dependence? The individuals have the most fruit, have the most power. That's something I suggested earlier. The more fruit you have, the more ripe your fruit is, the faster you can produce fruit, the bigger the fruit you produce, that determines your place in the hierarchy. and you're a very fruit-based species, which leads to your main faction being expansionist with the fruit. So, you have expansionist, diplomatic agenda. How do they approach a faction or species they have never interacted with before? Once a relationship is established with another faction or species, how do they maintain or grow ties with them? Are you socialites? You go out of your way to engage amicably with other species, offering peace and companionship in equal measure. Are you merchants? You tend towards transactional interactions, prioritizing earning more than it gives to other species. Are you conquerors? You do whatever is necessary to assert its control over other species, meaning diplomacy and violence are each treated as valid tools to solve different problems. Are you isolationists? You try to keep out of foreign affairs, having a strong preference towards handling your own issues and enjoying your accomplishments by yourself. Are you belligerents? You have a reputation for wanton violence without provocation, only respecting a species that can defend itself? Or are you uplifters? You make a habit of involving itself in the business of other species, particularly those disadvantaged or on the verge of sapience, and providing them the tools of civilization. So, you're expansionist, but are you expansionist merchants, where you go around and you try and sell your fruit to everyone? Are you expansionist isolationists, where you just kind of expand and do your own thing independent of everyone else? Are you expansionist conquerors, where you are trying to assert your authority on everyone else? Socialites, merchants, conquering or belligerent. So wait, what are you going to do? This is your dominant faction, and you're going to make a second fringe faction. The fringe faction is going to be like a new up-and-coming faction that is challenging the status quo. You could have it be your main faction is a socialite or a merchant, and your second faction is conquerors or belligerents. I'm seeing a little bit more merchants. So, the first faction you have are expansionist merchants. That means your main drive of your species, the main thing your species is known for, that it does, that it wants, is going around everyone, going around expanding territory, getting more resources, and selling those to other species, and trying to make a profit, whether profit means you get tools from them, you get ether from them, you get gold from them, you get food from them, whatever it ends up being. You are very invested in dealings with other species. And being expansionist, that means you have a lot of influence, you have a lot of interest in expansion constantly. Merchant does fit with the meme of species-wide fruit company and fringes socialites, gives fruit freely. Bad merchants, yeah. We buy in territory for totally fair prices, yeah. So the dominant one is merchants and the fringe is socialites? That could be interesting. So, write down a name for the faction. So this could be the Danlick Fruit Company, if you want to go that route. This is a faction within the larger species. So you have the species, the Danlick. And now underneath the Danlick, there's the dominant faction, the Fruit Company. And then you would be part of the Fruit Company kind of deal. And you're also going to have a momentum with 3 maxims. The maxims and the momentum. Where do it? Yeah, so momentum. A faction has a drive to it, the core premise that fuels the agenda it pursues. Some factions hold their members to uphold it, while others give its members the freedom to explore their own path. No matter the case, every faction has something going on behind the scenes. Write a maxim or edict that is integral to your faction when requiring or forbidding certain actions. It reflects the underlying behaviors that manifest as your faction's agenda. Even if your creature doesn't follow it, their faction expects them to. Never strike another creature with intent to kill. Greet every insult with a smile. Do whatever you can to never be forgotten. Never climb higher than the species' tallest temple. If your faction is popular, it gets 1 more. If it's dominant, it gets 2 more. As factions rise and lower in popularity in influence, they will gain and lose maxims. And then at the end of a session, if you are a part of a faction and you follow at least one of your maxims of your momentum, you get experience. So, with the Fruit Company, not the vegetable merchant company. So with the Fruit Company, with the main dominant faction, you come up with 3 maxims. This can be never give away anything for free. It could be only make a deal with those you find deserving. Like charity is weakness. If you want to go like the more kind of hardcore angle. Or it could be you have a quota. You could have it be that you need to make a certain amount of goods, like sell a certain amount of fruit each week. Upcharge, like always upcharge. So momentum is something where these are discrete like actions that you can take or not take that in game might come up. So for instance, never climb higher than the species' tallest temple. That is something where that's a little specific. However, if you're in the mountains, that you might be breaching that maxim pretty regularly. If your species originates from the subterranean region, that might be hard to do if you're on the surface. Meanwhile, do whatever you can to never be forgotten. That's kind of vague. That's more so, is this what we're doing? Is this kind of how we're feeling? Give a little, but not too much. Never buy fruit from competing merchants. I mean, one of them could be only eat fruit we make. Only eat fruit that we produce. Like, you're not allowed to eat the fruit of like any other species, whether it's from a lomp or from another descendant of the lomps. Put profits first. The first one is free type deal. Yeah. So I think that what we can do is for the momentum. Oh, what if everyone has a quota of fruit that they need to provide to the collective in order to have a stockpile? Like, 1 in every 5 fruits must go to the stockpile. Yeah, first one is free. Yeah, so I think that we all have the same general vibe. What is the name of this? Is it the Danlick Fruit Company? It's the DFP. So what we do now, after we decide on the name of that, we make a second faction, and because our dominant faction is expansionist merchants, we make a fringe faction where either the ideological or the diplomatic component, the agenda, is changed. So we can either keep expansionist and change merchant, or we can keep merchant and change expansionist. It sounds like y'all want to keep expansionist, change merchant to socialite. Right? The concept of nationhood is irrelevant to the name Danlick National Fruit Company. If you can't provide it to the collective, seizes the market price of the missing fruit. Oh my gosh. Okay. So now, every time the rift tree advances, a new faction breaks off an existing one. In the same way of what you just did, the new faction changes either the ideological or diplomatic agenda of an existing faction, comes up with an original momentum and maxims, then takes on a new name. You may then change which faction you're a part of. And then factions have specific livery, mottos, rituals, or titles, depending on how important they are. Often, they have at least one specific item associated with them. And then you can usually recognize members of other factions that are part of different species or factions. So this is a situation where you can get as deep as you want. You can have it be that the DNFP has the symbol of if your fruit is like a weird fusion of like an apple and an orange. Like, it's an apple, but it has an orange peel to it, and it's shaped like a banana, right? That's the fruit that you produce. And so that in bright yellow on a orange background is the kind of livery that you have. That's the kind of thing that you can do that has no mechanical impact. That's entirely how important are factions to your game. For the expansionist socialites, we need a name and we need a maxim. The momentum of the second faction, completely different, uncoupled, unrelated to the maxim of the first faction. You can have it be still about profits. You can have it be about fruit. You can have it be about charity. You can have it be about whatever you want. You like conquest more of the fringe faction? Yeah, so that's up to y'all. Do you want your second faction to be socialites, conquerors, isolationists, belligerents, or uplifters? We should conquer and subjugate our enemies. I feel like we have a coherent enough conversation that we don't need to like make a poll. I hate the quota. Let's just raid for the stockpile. You could be belligerents. Your belligerence is just let's go murder them. Also, do you need to raid for the stockpile if you can just produce the stockpile yourself? I guess if you want socialites as the fringe faction, say 1. If you want conquerors as the fringe faction, say 2. If you want isolationists, say 3. Belligerents 4. Uplifters 5. And I'll just give you like 30 seconds for that. So just 1, if you want it to be social as the fringe faction, they're social, they talk to others, they want to work with them. 2 for conquerors. 2 is like we go out and we try to take over, assert our authority over them, subjugate them in whatever way. 3 if you just want to keep out of their business. 4 if you want to actively like antagonize them, and 5 if you want to bring joy to them. They're stealing fruit because they see it as fair for having fruit stolen. But then I have more fruit for myself to buy more stuff. That is true. A fruit-based economy would be wild. You can't really deal with like generational wealth when it goes bad after a week. Oh gosh, now we're getting like 1, 2, and 4 division. I think that 1 is winning out. I think Socialites wins out. Dominant faction, Dole, Fruit Company, Fringe Company, Blackwater Mercenary. No, guys. Man, I can't believe that my Stone Age Civilization game got all political all of a sudden. Can I switch to 4? Sure, we're doing 4. We're doing 4 then. Belligerents. The fringe faction, y'all are belligerents. Y'all actively go around fighting people, you cause violence, you're causing problems, no one likes you, but hey, you got fruit. So, what's the name of this fringe faction? You have the Denlick National Fruit Company. It puts profits first. It is a quota that you need to donate to. And its first one is free. That's all of that. What do you want for the name and the maxim of this expansionist belligerent faction? How does it relate to the broader species, and how is it viewed by the broader species? Because outside of literally just like giving you an XP trigger, this also gives you something called a convenience based on which one you join. So a convenience, at any time, a player can declare that they have a convenient solution to the problem at hand. They then explain how their faction's momentum makes the current situation a non-issue, whether via knowledge or having access to particular items. It can never be used to purposely breach their faction's maxims. If the GM agrees that it makes sense, the creature takes a light consequence of another player's choice. The GM chooses specifics if you're repayment. That's like bad stuff happening. Then the creature gets some temporary benefit. Each agenda lists an example convenience. Conveniences might alter the difficulty of a check or bypass a task entirely. They might grant temporary items or change their relationship with others. But no matter what, it goes away at the end of the scene. Items break or are traded away. Knowledge is no longer applicable, or the flow of ether changes. You can only call on a convenience once per Rift Closure Tree. So once per level up cycle, once per every couple sessions, and you can never do it more than once per session or while feral. When you're falling back on your instinct, when you're falling back on that fawn instinct, you can't call on a convenience. So the idea being, if you're part of the Fruit Company, you're expansionist merchants, you might have a convenience that the local area was scouted as a potential settlement, making traversal easy. You're traveling through an area. Oh, no, don't worry. My species, we already checked out this place. It's fine. I know how to get through here. Conveniently. Or conveniently, you already have the exact item this creature is looking for. They need something. Well, actually, conveniently, as a merchant, I have that right here. And suddenly you can just bring it forward. Your secondary faction, the Fringe faction, you know the creature before you was a coward deep down. You just know that. Conveniently, they happen to be a coward. And so you can exploit that. And so being part of a faction gives you the ability to call on these conveniences. The New Citron Liberation Front in all caps. The Danlick Cultivation Society. Is it a situation where like their official name is the New Citron Liberation Front, but in polite society they call it the Danlick Cultivation Society? Or is it that one faction, the belligerents, is the new Citron Liberation Front, and then the new faction that comes when the next Rift Closure Tree happens, there's Socialites, that is the Danlick Cultivation Society. So, creating your creature. You have made your species. You have no temperature regulation. So in order to combat that, you, as the Danlicks, scroll all the way back up, you took on leaves and opposable fingers, and wings and mycelium and arms and seeded fruit. You are native to the volcanic region. Your instinct is to fawn. You feel about the collective that you like it, since it shares similar collectivist ideals to your species. And you value territory because it is fertile grounds for reproduction en masse via seeds. These are called flourishes. You have two factions dominating your species discourse. You have expansionist merchants, the Danlick National Fruit Company, all about expanding its territory, planting and cultivating and acquiring as much fruit as possible, and always getting one over on those pesky little outsiders. But that's combated by the fringe up-and-coming faction, the New Citron Liberation Front, in all caps. These are expansionist belligerents. They believe taking what you are owed. It's not stealing if they stole from you first. You simply are claiming fruit that is owed to you. And that's the tension. Now, making a creature. The Danlick Cultivation Society is a bunch of Wuxia cultivators, and they need way more fruit than everyone else because they conserve all of their power. The New Citron Liberation Front is a nascent faction that hasn't even really formed yet, but opposes the Cultivation Society. I like this triad of factions, or just because we need it. Okay, creating your creature. You've officially made your species. Congrats. You've done amazing. Once you make your species, you can make a specific creature of your species. This might be immediately following species creation, or after the unfortunate passing of your previous creature. So first off, determine if you're playing a Mew. It's a way to grant extra variability in character creation, and is not recommended for new players. Generally, I would say don't play a Mew when you're doing the playtest. I know you're going to be like, but it sounds fun. Don't do it. Title and task. First things first. You're Danlick. You have all of the traits. You have leaves. You have opposable fingers. You have mycelium. You have wings. You have seeded fruit. And you have something else that I don't remember. Assign your creature whatever title it holds within your species society, with a brief description of what the title does and what it means to be one of your species. Then write a defining task that is the most stereotypical thing your title does. Arms, thank you. What is a Mew? A mutation. A Mew is that you have a mutation. You did decide arms, yes. You dropped feathers for arms. If you're playing a Mew, then that means that you have different traits than the rest of the Danlick. You evolved weird, non-traditional traits, and you'll continue to evolve more different traits over time. It's an option, and it's basically once you play the system, and maybe you play a creature or two, it might not be fun to just play the same species over and over, so you have the ability to change around your traits. But it's random, right? So, assign a task, a title, to your creature based on their society, and write a brief description of what the title does and what it means to be one. Then write a defining task that is the most stereotypical thing that does. So for instance, a warrior might be responsible for combat, defense, and hunting. You must be born into it and are trained from birth. Their defining task? Attacking creatures. An artisan is responsible for building structures, maintaining tools, and technological development. Every creature contributes to these tasks, though certain masters of the craft are deferred to its experts. Defining task? Crafting items. Seer, handling ether. Leader, troop tasks. Scholar, recalling and explaining lore. Diplomat, fighting with words. So, this is something where your creature has a job that it does, a title, and a specific point of experience that they can draw on as they play. When you're making tasks, when you're making rolls, generally you roll 1d12. However, you can roll 2d6 instead if it falls under the purview of your title. And if it's a really hard task, you can only roll 2d6 if it falls under your defining task. So if I am trying to intimidate someone and I'm a warrior, being a warrior probably means I'm really intimidating, good at intimidation. I would be able to roll 2d6. And then, if it's an improbable task, if it's really hard, I would only get the 2d6 as a warrior from attacking them. Why is 2d6 better than 1d12? Because it's a 7+ system. 6 or lower is one result, 7+ is another. 2d6 makes 7+ way, way, way more likely. OMG, what if the reason that the Fringe faction got traction is because the leaders of the Danlek Cultivation Society were embezzling portions of the stockpile in order to buy a variety of goods? They were buying, like, foreign goods. This was like a whole embezzlement scheme where they were saying it's like Danlek first, but then they were caught with foreign goods. Crazy. So are like we just making the Chiquita Banana Company? I mean, I guess. What's your job in the banana company? Are you like all about fruit? Are you selling fruit? Are you cultivating and growing fruit? Are you completely unrelated to the merchant side of things? Are you part of the belligerents? Are you part of the Liberation Front, where you are like a warrior? You're an insurgent. You are down with big fruit company. No, the Danlek National Fruit Company is a worker co-op and has approximate compensation for everyone's labor. That's what they say. That's what they all say. So what does your creature do? Are you what do you want to be good at in play? Are you a warrior? Are you an artisan? Are you a seer? Do you want to work with attacking? Do you want to work with crafting? Do you want to work with ether? Who knows? Then you get a signature item. Write down what item you carry with you regularly. Assign it a design, which is what it's meant to do, and what a task is intended to assist with, and its durability is 3. It could be a specific tool assigned to your title, an heirloom of cultural significance, or just a rock. Consider what unique items your species would develop to meet its practical and cultural needs, or what your creature would find useful. This takes up 1 of your 3 item slots. You might have more items, but these don't have item slots and don't have mechanics. And then write 1 thing about your creature that is immediately recognizable by every member of your creature's species. This can be its appearance, social status, or a deed they completed. So this might be your creature just so happens to have an extra finger on each arm. Your creature might have a purple and blue and black coloration to it, whereas everyone else has a black and blue and purple coloration to it. This might be something where your hair, that you don't have hair, but like if you had hair, it was swept off to the left. And that's recognizable. Like, what is the thing that if someone was to draw fan art of your creature, even though we as humans would look at this and be like, oh, that's just a Danlek, they would recognize it as specifically Guard's Danlek, as N's Danlek, as Alza's Danlek, right? What's like the hat they wear to show off who they are in the cast of characters? I just like the idea of someone with a spear that is designed to be a spear, but the character insists on using it to try to write in the mud and letting the mud dry in the sun instead of buying a darn clay tablet. Yeah, you could do that, absolutely. And then write a brief description of your creature's appearance, goals, and personality. Focus on what would be relevant to the game you're playing, whether to other players or in pushing the narrative forward, and give it a name. Or several, depending on your species' culture. So this is where you go, hey, my creature wants to bring down the fruit company and bring up the Liberation Front. We want to get all of the fruit and we want to stop using it as a currency. We want to just eat and hoard all of the fruit that we want. And my creature is kind of a jerk. My creature is a bit of a jerk about it, and particularly to other members of its own species. But my creature isn't a jerk to other species because other species aren't a part of this, right? That's the kind of thing you can do. Uses it as a spear too. It's just he insists on using it to write because he's cheap. Yeah. So mechanically, you have a 6-node health tree. Assign each node one of your species traits. So on this health tree, one of the nodes is leaves. One of the nodes is mycelium. One of the nodes is and such and so forth. And then when it fills up with any combination of wounds and or injuries, your creature will die. Luckily, another creature can always take their place. Whenever you get an injury, fill in one of the nodes on your health tree completely. That node's trait is injured. When a trait is injured, you're unable to use it effectively. This might make tasks more difficult for you, prevent you from using tools, or even get in the way of your survival. Your GM will decide specific consequences, but you are encouraged to roleplay it however you wish. Injured traits can never gain additional injuries or wounds. Meanwhile, wounds, you slash one of the nodes of your health tree partially, that node's trait is wounded. You can assign a second wound to a wounded trait, combining them into a single injury where the trait becomes injured. Wounded traits can never gain injuries. You just had the most cursed realization. Our species makes fruit. We use that fruit. Yeah. To feed our... Yeah. And you also eat the fruit. You eat your own byproduct. Whether that is like hair falling out, or it's like a waste product, or it is like a tumorous growth growing off of you. Like, hey, this is a weird and wacky world. That's the point of the game. If you ever have more health nodes than traits, so for instance, you evolve and you spend experience on more health nodes, these traitless nodes are never wounded or injured. They're just cosmetic damage. And then every time you rest for an entire time slot, that all of your basic needs are met. All of your wounds are cleared if you're in your preferred region, so volcanic. Otherwise, only one becomes cleared. So, and then, no matter what region you're in, all of your injuries become wounds. Injured traits, therefore, become wounded traits. So if I rest for the night, and I have 1 injury, and I have 3 wounds, if I'm in the volcanic region, I'd clear all 3 of my wounds, and then my injury would become a wound. Or, if I'm not in the volcanic region, I would clear 1 of my 3 wounds, and then I would take my injury into a wound. So the difference between resting in your home region and not is really substantial. Hey, Azu. We probably spend a lot of time basking in the sun to grow fruit. Humans make milk and they use that milk to feed. Yeah, that's fair. Like, it could just be like milk. So this is just death's door. This is what happens when you die. This is basically you get to do 1 more action. And in the case of if you respond with hope, you get to do 1 really, really good action. Whereas if you respond with horror, you get to do a bunch of really, really poor actions. You get to flail and you get to try and you get to not succeed, but like make like 7 actions. Because you're responding with hope or horror. We accidentally created a society based on a mercantile company that sells and stockpiles the equivalent of breast milk. Yeah, that wasn't accidental. I thought that was very intentional. And then this is just after death, which is not really applicable to character creation. Focus. You're more than an animal, even if you aren't fully civilized quite yet. As a result, you have the ability to tolerate other species, operate outside of your species' influence, and persevere in the face of overwhelming adversity. For your creature, what's the option to explode and take the fraud? So, for your creature, remember, we're out of species. We are at your creature, which has a title and a defining task. They have a signature item. They have something that makes them look different from all the other species, and they have 6 health nodes in their health tree. You have to answer 3 of the following questions. Why are you willing to work with species other than your own? What goal do you have that requires you leaving your home to travel the world? Why do you continue to pursue your goal when others would have given up? And this is just me basically point by point saying, don't play an edgy loner, don't play a hobbit, and don't play a character that like is just going to give up, right? Because these 3 issues I see happen a lot of times in TTRPGs, where someone refuses to work with others because like, oh, I'm playing an elf and my elf is super racist. Like, okay, you're playing in a party of non-elves. Either learn how to play a bigoted character in a way that is not disruptive to the group, or don't play a bigoted character. Oh, my character wouldn't want to go on this adventure. Okay, then why are you playing this character? We're playing an adventure game. You toss her. Why do you continue to pursue your goal when others would have given up? Like, why is your character Delulu? What makes your character special? What sets your character apart from other creatures of their species? And so these questions are just like, bonk, cut it off at the head. So whenever you have to make a payment, you can spend a point of focus. If the consequence was severe, it becomes light, and if it was light, it is ignored. Your species begins with 1 focus, but you can gain more as you evolve. And then after the end of a scene, when you roleplay either the socialization, or the motivation, or the conviction, other players may agree to let you recover that answer's course, or recover points of focus. You usually will be able to recover focus multiple times per session, but not every scene. The GM can grant you focus at any time for any reason. Representing your faction's momentum well, meditating with ether, and an awesome description of violence are all equally valid, but generally, resting for the night and time passing are not sufficient to refresh focus on their own. Yeah, working transactionally with other species is paramount to trade and enterprise regardless of my personal feelings and prejudices, and that's exactly the sort of answer that I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for, oh, my creature just wants to be friends with everyone and it doesn't matter what species they're part of. No! If you're part of a troop, going around, doing things, you don't care if they're members of the Danlik or the Klakauk or the Lomp or the Alpip. You care that they are resources that you do not want to spend early. You want them to grow in value so that you might exploit them later. And so, for all intents and purposes, you are friends, right? That's the sort of answer that is perfect for like an expansionist mercantile. Motivation. What goal do you have that requires you to like travel the world? Probably finding new clients, selling fruit. You're a traveling fruit salesman. Conviction. Why do you continue? Because you're just built like that. Your pronouns are he, him. Emphasis on the him. And you can always go feral, which is if you have no more focus, you can fall back on your instinct. Y'all chose fawn, which is becoming unassuming, appeasing another, obscuring your intentions. And so you can, in the same way, fall back on going feral in order to, just like spending focus, reduce the cost. And then you can't go feral again. Anything not associated with fawning is always improbable. You can't benefit from items or be assisted. You can assist others in low complexity tasks, but only by fawning. And you can't communicate out of single word exclamations and expressions, meaning you can't assist in high complexity tasks. And once you become feral, you remain feral until you recover a point of focus. When you're feral, you can always fall back on lucidity. And that is where the other players agree on an action that is antithetical to your socialization, motivation, and or conviction. It might breach your momentum or threaten your personal maneuver. The action is something so upsetting to your creature that it shocks them into lucidity, regaining a single point of focus and ending your feral state upon its completion. This might be if your big drive for traveling the world is because you want to just sell fruit and you go feral. And in your feral nature, you, in a moment that causes you to become lucid, give away all of your fruit for free because you're fawning. You're like, okay, just take it. Go ahead. Take all my fruit. It's fine. It's whatever. I'm not that stressed. I'm not that scared. And then you give away all your fruit. You shock yourself back into lucidity and you're like, I just breached my momentum. I just gave away all my fruit without selling anything. What kind of merchant am I? Hey, bro, you got a snack? Yeah, I got you, bro. Items. Items, this isn't really important right now. The main thing is you start with one item that has 3 durability. Whenever you use an item, if you're not using it in the way it's intended to be, so for instance, a spear that you are writing in the ground, instead of stabbing with, you spend one of its durability. And then also, when you make a payment of tiers, one of the 3 payments you might make, you would have to decrement your durability. And you can always make items. This is a game where crafting is actually a core part of the system. It's just a check like anything else. It's a task, and it has a tree associated with it. And making a shield might be fast, it might not. Making a spear might be fast, it might not. It depends on how good it is. What resources you have available, how good you are at making spears or shields or whatever. And so you begin with 3 item slots. There are special items that are like reinforced to have more durability. There are metal items, which are even more durable. And then there are ether items, which have like weird magical effects, like they softly glow in the dark. They're never where you left it. They're gently pulled towards sources of ether. They can be set on fire without burning, or you always wake up with them in hand. Right? So these are your magic items. However, you can have magic items, and you can also have copper items. Both are really good in their own way. And then you also have protectors, which are when you take damage, you can damage the item instead of taking the damage. And containers, which allow you to hold more items. They're basically nesting dolls, but you can't nest containers. Yeah. That's character creation. So you made a species, you made a character, you made a creature, and that's that. I'm not gonna pretend like that's the end of the game, is because clearly that's when the game starts. But for the full, like, because I have a, what is it? It's very cool. I'm glad you think so. I have a quick start. The reason I didn't go with the quick start is because, yeah, easy. Now let me show you the quick start. After we went through all of that, the quick start is species creation. You start with 6 ether organs. However you lose one, roll 1d6. We rolled Aura Wallop. Ancestor selection. Roll 2d12. One becomes your random ancestor. One becomes your blocked ancestor. Then choose 3 other ancestor species. You gain 1 trait from each, 2 more from all of them. 1 cultural question, 1 legacy question, 1 instinct, 1 region. Descriptors. How are some cultural aspects that you can do for them? Factions. Create 2 factions with 2 agendas, 1 ideological, 1 diplomatic. Here are just their names. 1 gets a momentum with 3 maxims because it's dominant. Make a second faction where either the ideological or diplomatic agenda is changed, the other is the same. That faction is fringe. It only has a momentum with 1 maxim, and it gets a name. That's your entire species creation. Creature creation. Are you a Mew? Yes, no. Title, task, signature item, identifiable characteristic. Focus questions. 6 node health tree, 1 focus, 3 item slots. You are part of one of your species factions, gaining its momentum and maxims. You're ready to start. That's why I didn't want to show off the quick start, because the quick start, I want you to appreciate that, like, it's an option. The quick start is an option that you have available for once you understand how the game is played. You don't need to like sift through all of the pages. You can go back to them if you so wish. But the main thing is you have the quick start. The quick start, bam, 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 bam. I really, really, really value when a game goes out of its way to make references very easy on the players. I love it when a game respects the time and the just like overhead of a GM, and it's just like, hey, if you want to learn, or if you want to figure out like, hey, what do I do with the Rift closure tree? What are the various payments that I can make? Boom. Here's a 4-page GM quick start that has about like 80% of the information you're going to need. Session start, session end. Rift closure tree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order. Make checks. Here's how the check system works. Bonuses. Here are the various bonuses you can grant. What are payments? Here's how like the flow chart of payment works. What are the payments? What do they do? Boom. Blood, light and severe. Sweat, light and severe. Tears, light and severe. Death. Here's what happens when a creature dies. Hope, horror, funerary rites. Boom. That's like most of the game right there. You gotta go, see you later. Enjoy. You probably need a character sheet, but that's it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a character sheet right now. I might. I think I have an older version of a character sheet. Do I? No, I don't. I deleted it. Yeah. I mean, like, I definitely need a character sheet, but this is like a playtest. Pen and paper. Like, I don't know how to make a fillable one. I don't know how to make a character sheet that's fillable. If anyone here does, I would love if I could just outsource that, because I don't know how to make a character sheet. Death is common and should be expected. But yeah, so Xeneolithic, it's a system where the bulk of the game is around the species. The bulk of the game is around making your species. It is about evolving your species. It is about the politics, the factions of your species, and your creature is simply one extension of that. And I like that. I think that's cool. I think that's neat. And I think that a lot of people might be rubbed the wrong way with that. I think a lot of people might want their species to be less impactful than their creature, because I think a lot of people want their creature to be their special little blorbo. But this is a game where you're gonna die. Like, it's intended that you will die. And I think that that's very important to impress upon players, impress upon GMs. This is a game where if you don't have at least one creature that dies, and you play this for longer than a couple sessions, I feel personally, as the designer, you're probably not playing brutal enough. I'm just imagining Arrow making a YouTube short about the politics of Xan. Like, given that I would have to do that while the ghost of upside down Australian chat is over top, I might not do that. I have other stuff I'm trying to focus on now. But I think it would be very funny to just share a clip of the new fruit liberation movement. Crazy enough, it's been 2 hours. Today's a Friday stream. Friday streams tend to go a bit shorter. I might wrap up. Like, I might just wrap up now. We made a character. That's really all we need to do. I might make a clip of this. I might not. Like, I think I'll wait to make like a proper character creation clip once we hit like the full release and I make stuff like look pretty and I have a character sheet. I just thought this might be fun. I am going to not show off 10 minutes of me in the VOD because I'm just going to upload that to Patreon because folks didn't really seem too interested in it. So like, hey, if you don't want the TV, I won't play the TV. When working on a TTRPG, what do you do when the idea has been done before? Except nothing is original. Good night. Something to keep in mind is accept that nothing is original. Everything will be a remix. Every good idea you have, every groundbreaking theorem you produce, every hypothesis you make, every maxim you posit, none of it is original. All of it is based off of what came before. And that's okay. It's okay to come up with ideas that feel derivative, that feel overplayed, that feel like they've been done before, because how you do it is not going to be the same. Now, this thing that I say, particularly for TTRPG design, is why can't I just use what came before? If I want to make in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition a character class where I am a fire knight, where I hail from the elemental plane of fire and I burn away impurity in both myself and in others, and I strike with like scintillating flame that can pierce like through any darkness, magical or otherwise, that can like burn away any toxin, that can sear and cauterize any wound. Why am I not just playing a paladin? Well, no, like the Fire Knight would be different, so like I need to make a whole new like character class. Like, no, you just described like 80% of what a paladin is. And so that's something where I would say, reflavor your paladin where your divine smites are big fire blasts. Reflavor your paladin where your lay on hands is burning like away disease and sealing wounds. Reflavor your paladin and choose Searing Smite as one of your spells. You don't need to make a new character class for that. However, if I want to play in D&D 5e a character who occupies a collective of like 4 PCs that are all joined together by a hive mind, and all of my abilities revolve around the members of my hive mind interacting with one another, yeah, like that's kind of unique. You can't really do that. Even though it's not special, it is based on other class features and subclasses and traits and NPCs of D&D 5e. That still would value its own unique class. And in the same way, Synthop or Xeneolithic, or even Bad Deals, are all games where you can't really do the stuff in them outside of that. You tell me if there's another system out there where the entire point of the game is restricting player choice and then daring them to break the game. In the same way that Synthop did, where it restricts your abilities and your options and your choices, and then the whole point of the system is to work around those limitations as a TTRPG. In Xeneolithic, I don't know of any other system where you create and play an entire species in a Stone Age biopunk setting. I don't know of any other setting where the entire system, from front to back, is all about making deals that are going to purposely, intentionally so, screw you over. Finding a niche is usually as easy as looking at what is the closest D&D table up to and building a system for that, because Lord knows D&D wasn't designed for it. Unless it's grueling, methodical, medieval tunnel warfare. Yeah, 3 goblins in a trench coat. Exactly, it's like based on that same style thing. But with all of these, I would not have made them had I just had the ability to just homebrew something else. For instance, distortions. I had the idea for distortions. Mostly like on the result of Kane, but like I didn't make distortions its own TTRPG. I didn't make it its own unique thing because it was just part of Kane. I just like slotted it into Kane. And even with distortions, I made it so that the distortions were taking inspiration from sins specifically and from drifters. You know, I'm back. How's the species doing? We just finished. Yeah, we're doing questions now. So the species ended up going well, but I'm probably going to wrap up soon because Fridays I tend to go shorter. The Danlick National Fruit Company. No, we did not make ourselves. We made a fruit company that goes around exploiting others, and you didn't choose conquerors, surprisingly. Surprisingly, you did not choose conquerors. Yeah, so the long and short of my answer is that, like, when working on a TTRPG, my main thing is accepting the fact that nothing I do will ever be unique. Every single thing I make will just be a Project Moon reference, and every single time I will have everyone in my comments going like, "Is that Limbus Company?" And I'll go like, "Sure, I guess. Why not?" And then with that understanding, build my own thing. And like personally, this is a personal opinion. I'm pretty critical of homebrew. Like, I say this as a dev, I say this as a designer, I say this as someone who like likes making homebrew, and in my TTRPG games, I almost exclusively make my own homebrew. I'm very critical of using other people's homebrew because a lot of the time it's not very good. That said, there are absolutely times where homebrew is amazing. Harpocrates dossier for Kane. I absolutely loved it. I've used it multiple times in multiple different ways in my Kane game. Because it's just like Svelte, just that guy. And so I am very critical of that sort of thing. So I'm the sort of person where I am one of the first to like call you out and be like, hey, why is like this could have been homebrew? In the same way, like, oh, this could have been an email. This could have just been homebrew. Why did you, or this could have been like a subclass. This could have been reflavored. This doesn't need to be like a full D&D character class. This didn't need to be a full like setting supplement for Call of Cthulhu. It could have been like just its own. It didn't have to be its own thing. Okay, but what if Future Arrow discovered time travel, went back in time and made Limbus Company, so actually all your content is my own? That sounds like it would happen in Limbus Company from what I'm aware, so sure, why not? You know, when you said daring them to break the game, I immediately thought of the Spiffing Brit trying to make the most broken synthetic operative ever. Listen, if Spiffing Brit played Synthop, I do believe that the system would just crack. Like, it wouldn't break, it wouldn't bend, it would just crack. Because that is just the essence he has in everything he does. Honestly, unironically, I enjoy Spiffing Brit's content. And I really think he's very entertaining to watch. I do get a little bit irked when I watch him and how he interacts with others, specifically because he reminds me of another Brit I used to know. Like, this is something where, like, I'm sure Spiff is an amazing dude, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him, because obviously he's an entertainer, he's entertaining, and, like, if people keep collabing with him after he frustrates them, clearly they can, like, they're not bothered by it. But, like, he reminded me of another Brit I knew who, imagine someone who thought they were the spiffing Brit, but was actually just, like, average. You know? Like, does that make sense? This is someone who thought he was, like, spiffing Brit, mastermind, like, could manipulate anything and break all the rule systems, and was just kind of like a guy. And, like, he was my friend. I don't talk to him anymore, and, like, I don't have particularly negative feelings towards him, but, like, he just had that sort of personality, and it was a little bit annoying. So most British people? Yes, most British people. A synthop table of spiffing Brit, let's game it out, and Michael Reeves, Niles the GM. Oh my gosh. Spiffing Brit must be a TTRPG rules lawyer. I don't think so. I think my understanding of spiffing Brit is that when it comes to video games, rules lawyer. When it comes to video games, he will just, like, exploit the engine, right? To the letter, because that's how you break video games. When it comes to, like, TTRPGs, or, like, when he's on, like, Magic the Noah, I think he just kind of, like, sees what he can get away with. He just kind of, like, says stuff confidently and sees, like, no one's gonna call him on it. And so he just says stuff and then it happens. Which, mind you, very funny. However, I would say that's not really rules lawyering. I think that's kind of just, like, social engineering, which is a different skill set, but it is still, like, a skill set. Rianu Keeves, the robot corporate assassin. Okay. Did you know that there are certain words that are totally fine to say? It's just I don't want you to say them. That is one of those string of words where it's just like, could you just not, please, for me? Like, I'm asking you, like as a request from Arrow, to not do that. However, now that I've answered that question, I think I wrap up. It's been like 2.5 hours. Crazy, I know. This is like the shortest I've ever done a stream, even though I've absolutely done shorter. I have to work on Xeneolithic and a video for tomorrow, so I'm gonna go. But you're breathtaking. I'm going to go be productive. Thank you so much for swinging by. Be on the lookout for tomorrow. My plan is to program over on Twitch. Who knows if that's what we're actually going to do? For all I know, Xeneolithic won't be done, and I'm going to be, like, furiously typing, like, I'm going to release it in an hour. Got here at the tail end, but very cool. Thank you, silly person. Well, the VOD will be here. Julie, go do the thing. Is this inspired by Bigotry? I have no idea what that is, so no. This is just a TTRPG where you play a entire species in a Stone Age civilization that magic is fading from the world, and so you have to rapidly evolve in order to catch up. Arrow, before you leave. Before I leave TV, and we are now live.
All right, I would
To
now
a
utter
live
minor,
studio
mediocre,
audience.
I would now utter minor, mediocre, and major threats.
Sorry. I heard before you go, so I assume you just wanted to watch Biophage. Biblearidion. What the frick? What is this? Oh, it's like a Xenofauna channel. Yeah, so this is not inspired by them. Same deal, right? It is not inspired by them. Like, it is separate from them. Let's turn off the chat overlay. Like this is like, I'm not inspired by them. I'm unfamiliar with them specifically, but the whole idea behind them of xenofiction, Xenofauna, is basically exactly the same, right? Yeah, neat. We love xenofiction here. if you finish Xeneolithic by tomorrow, I promise gifted subs on Twitch, if that's any motivation. I was going to do it anyways. Thank you for a sick beta, but now I want to provide stakes. Whoa. Very cool series. You should watch it. Yeah, I am interested. Thank you for that. Anyway, thank you all so much for swinging by. Catch me on Twitch tomorrow, 11 a.m. PST. Xeneolithic gonna drop tomorrow in beta. I'm gonna be making pings. I'm gonna be bothering folks. I'm gonna be making a roll on the Discord. And thank you so much. Have a lovely day, night, evening, morning, whenever. And take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.